Christianity is slowly starting to decline in numbers. And I've been seeing a couple clips of reverends and pastors talking about how it's not as strong as it was before, and a lot of churches are losing members and numbers are going down, and the youth isn't as interested in how can we keep them engaged and spread the word of Christ. Nothing. There's not a damn thing you can do about it now, bro. This stuff was bound to happen. You got to think. The foundation has to be strong for the building to stand tall. What's the foundation of Christianity? A book. A book full of fairy tales talking about, you gotta think, the book starts off with a damn talking snake. How long y'all think this shit was gonna work, man? Come on now. And on top of that, people are convinced that out of all the books, it's just one book, out of the billions of books, one special book that men kind of wrote, but an outside deity told him to write this one book. He created everything else his damn self, but had somebody else write a book. Come on, you can only tell a lie for so long before people start to catch on to it. On top of all the technology we got, all the information at the palm of our hands, we can easily do research now. This shit is that simple. You ask the average Christian this question, especially black ones. What were black people before Christians? They haven't even fathomed the idea because they think it just started with the Garden of Eden and when we got here. They don't even look at the history before that to realize it's a bunch of new made up bullshit. So yes, there's nothing you could do. And the homie Ron touched on this. It was a Christian talking about the deconstruction people on TikTok. If y'all left, that means y'all was never a part of the faith. Y'all sound like an abuser in a relationship that was nice at first and the person fell in love with them, and after a while they seen they bullshit and left and going, well, if you leave me, that just means you ain't love me in the first place. No, we love being Christians at some point. We believe that, we argue up and down about it, but then we realize this is a bunch of bullshit. So that's where we are in this day and age. You can't hide the bullshit no more. People are not rocking with it.
Used to be Christian, but aren't anymore. What's the main reason why you decided to leave Christianity?
As an ordained Southern Baptist evangelical pastor that I used to be, I can tell you personally that the first time I began to question everything about my Christian faith was the moment I saw how quickly and easily the vast majority of my faith community was willing to purchase the very poisonous snake oil that Donald Trump was so cheaply selling to them. It was also then when I found the courage to begin asking myself some very tough questions, which I never dared to ask before. For instance, if the vast majority of Christians, 87% of them to be exact, who I am constantly surrounded by because we share the same spiritual belief together, are so easily deceived by such an obvious charlatan who is clearly manipulating them with all of his verifiable lying for his own personal gains, what makes me think then that the Christian beliefs we all share together aren't also coming from other charlatans like him, who created religion to also deceive and manipulate the same people for also their own personal gains. I mean, just look at the way the MAGA Republican Party is so comfortably using Christianity as its favorite weapon to not only effectively convince its very large gullible base to keep voting for them in spite of all of its cruel and inhumane policies, but to essentially also enrich itself in the process. Not only that, but once I also began to witness how my own faith community was actually worshiping him like he was some sort of divine figure, I also began to notice then that prior to his political rise, these people were only strangers to me who were pretending to be something they were certainly not, which consequently fully opened my eyes to eventually clearly see them for who they really were all along, which now I know them to be nothing more than a bunch of fake-ass self-righteous huelebichos who were just wearing their mask of goodness and holiness in front of each other, because without having their mask on, they couldn't possibly be part of a community of other fake-ass huelebichos. Which then also made me realize that if most of these people were fake, then it was also possible that we were worshiping together a fake Christian God. Why? Because you will think that only a fake God will create such fake people and then have the caucasity to call them his chosen people. So, in 2020, I finally decided then to leave them all behind in their bubble of delusion and to never look back. Stay woke, mi gente!
Listen, I'm about to let y'all know 5 reasons why I moved away from Christianity and chose spirituality. Let's get it. 1. No accountability. Everything in the people's lives is either blamed on God's plan, or they'll say something like, the devil is busy. But I've never heard nobody say, this is my fault. Everything that's happening right now is a response to my actions. And a mindset like that, to me, leaves no room for growth. 2. Contradiction. God made all creations, yet half his creations are demonic. And I know y'all gonna be like, God made everything and everyone with free will, but it still does not make sense to me that a perfect God would even make evil exist. 3. Logic and science are ignored. Anything that challenges the biblical stories, no matter how much sense it makes, will automatically be rejected. That don't sit right with me. I have a brain, so if something don't sound right, I'ma question it. And if the questions ain't making sense, then I'm just not gonna believe it. To me, y'all can't just be like, it's written in this book that a man wrote, so you gotta believe it. Nah, I'm not rocking with that. 4. Religion is used as a tool to control. I noticed that. Now, the best example of that is during slavery. Now, during slavery, slaves were not allowed to read or write. It was against the law. But somehow the masters or the owners of the slaves were giving their slaves Bibles to read or trying to help them understand. It didn't make sense to me. I don't know. Seems like a form of control. 5. Cherry-pick morality. Is when you preach love, but they use the Bible to hate. And what I mean by that is they'll preach love using the Bible until they find out you don't believe that type of stuff. And now they it seems like they trying to use hate or fear to change your mind. They don't like you because you don't believe in the Bible. Or my favorite one, they gonna tell you hell is a long time in hell. Hell is for eternity. I don't know. Them my 5 reasons why I moved away from Christianity. Y'all let me know what y'all think.
1. After I lost my faith in 2023 and stopped believing in the existence of any God, including the Bible God, I had to leave Christianity because I'm not a fake it till you make it kind of person. I don't know how to pretend that I'm into something when I'm not. And also the Bible says that if you're lukewarm, God is going to spit you out. You're either hot or you're cold. So I'm cold. My second reason is a bit more personal, but the idea of sharing the same faith with the sadist that neglected my dad and left him to die in the hospital stopped appealing to me after 2023. 3, I don't want to serve any God, including the Bible God. I don't want to lay down my life for any God. I don't want to spend the rest of my life serving any God or any deity. I just want to live as a human being. 4, and this is really tied to being an ex-evangelical and an ex-charismatic Christian, I don't want to be filled with any spirit, especially the Holy Spirit. I don't want that spirit to occupy my body, my mind. I don't want any spirit speaking to me. I don't want any spirit changing me from the inside out. I can do that work by myself. And I've already experienced the Holy Spirit. I'm good. It was fun while it lasted, but I have revoked my consent. 5, I don't believe in heaven or hell. I stopped believing in both after 2023. So the idea of preaching the gospel or doing anything that will either guarantee my spot in heaven or a spot in eternal flames doesn't make sense to me anymore. So if I don't believe in heaven, or if I'm not living my life to make it to paradise, what's the point of being part of a religion that basically preaches that and supports that? 6, the idea of dating or getting married to a religious Christian man is very unappealing to me right now. Honestly, my experiences with Christian men in the churches I attended told told me enough about how they behave. A lot of them are very good liars. A lot of them are very good at hiding. And a lot of them are very okay with cheating on their wives and their girlfriends. And they say things like, oh, we need the grace of God to not cheat. No, you just need to value fidelity, to be honest. Like, it's okay to be honest about the fact that you like women, or you're a playboy, or you like to sleep around. But don't walk around saying that you need the grace of God not to cheat. No, you just need better values. 7, I stopped believing in the concept of sin after 2023. I now use my brain to rightly discern between what is ethical and what is unethical. This is a more philosophical approach as opposed to a religious and morality approach. Plus, a lot of the things that Christians say are sinful or claim to be sinful according to their Bible are actually just natural human responses to external stimuli. For example, desiring mattress action or being tempted to engage in mattress action is not sinful. Even engaging in it, to me, is not sinful, okay? But at the same time, I respect women who want to wait, because to be honest, I'd rather you wait till the right time, because again, on the other side, a lot of guys, including religious guys, like to go after virgins just so they can say that they conquered them and they were the first, okay? So choose wisely, but whether you engage or you don't engage, let it be your personal decision, as opposed to you engaging and then crying about it and then feeling guilty, thereby taking away the whole pleasurable experience that comes with engaging in mattress action. 8, I don't need a God or a deity to tell me what my purpose in life is. I am totally okay with just doing my best and living my life to the fullest, and also living in the present, okay? I'm not waiting on the Lord. I'm not waiting for the Lord to tell me what to do. I'm not entering any weird waiting season. If I get an idea and I have the means to pursue that idea and bring it to life, I'm going to do it. I no longer pray and wait on the Lord. I don't wait for signs anymore. If it comes into my mind, I do it. If I can't do it, I shelve it for a different time. 9, I don't believe in the devil or the concept of spiritual forces in heavenly places, to be honest. I'm good on putting on the full armor of God. Keep your helmet of salvation. Keep your breastplate of righteousness. I'm good on that. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life casting and binding the devil all the time. Any small thing that happens, devil, I rebuke you. Satan, I rebuke you. Any small thing that happens, the enemy is after me. Any small thing that happens, oh, God is permitting something to happen to me so that he can teach me a lesson. I don't believe in any of those things, because honestly, why am I submitting to the permissible will of a deity, of a God? That feels like a power imbalance, to be honest. And also the fact that sometimes you're going through suffering in life, and if you're a Christian, you're literally thinking like, why is God not responding to me? Why is he not answering me? And then Christians encourage you by telling you, keep waiting on the Lord. He will renew your strength. So wait, I say. Yeah, I'm not doing none of that anymore. There's suffering in life. All of us are going to experience grief, sadness, loss, etc. I'm not going to be thinking that it's the devil that caused it, or the God that I'm serving, that I'm dedicating my life to, permitted the enemy to do this, or he is the one that sent the chaos and trouble into my life, and yet he still wants me to glorify his name and rejoice in the midst of that suffering. I will depend on my support system. I will talk to my friends when I'm going through it. If I have any control over the situation, I will act accordingly. If I don't, I will let it happen. I will let it pass, and at the end of it, I will look at the lessons I learned. I will thank myself for surviving it or going through it, and then I will move on. And finally, number 10, I am not mad at the Bible God, but honestly, I cannot serve a God who intentionally sent a version of himself to live in the world allegedly as a man, and then watch him die in the most gruesome way possible. Before Jesus was actually taken away by the Roman soldiers, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he was crying out to God, and he was telling his Father, take this cup of suffering away from me, yet not my will be done, but your will be done, right? And I think he said that 3 times, if I remember correctly. And you know what? His Father does not even respond from the heavens. There's no big booming voice like we saw when John the Baptist baptized Jesus Christ. Instead, the Bible God sends an angel to minister to Jesus. What kind of father does that? Like, you delegate the responsibility of comforting your son to an angel. It makes no sense. And then just the crucifixion story, seeing what happened, how gruesome and bloody it was, right? And in a way, like, Jesus is God. So I'm like, how can you even make your own self go through that and then go through it as a man as well? Jesus died as a man. He didn't die as God. He only took up that position again when he ascended, because he earned that position because of what he went through. He had to go through it. Now, I'm not saying that God had to stop it. Prophecy is prophecy, although he's the one that came up with the prophecy. He could have done anything, right? But I also think that because Jesus did not abscond his mission the way Jonah did, for example, that's why God is like, all right, you're seated at my right hand side. You are the chief high priest. You came into the world. You lived like a man. You did not sin, unlike Adam. Okay, so you are better than any system I ever set up. Everything about that is messed up. I don't want to serve a God like that. I don't want to dedicate my life to a God who can do something like that, because it means that at any point, because I believe in this God, he can also cause that kind of suffering to me. And at the end of it, I'm supposed to glorify his name and say, thank you for putting me through the furnace of affliction. I love you so much, my God. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Mwah!
So what led me to deconstruct from Christianity after being a Christian for 21 years? Well, it started when I took a Religions of the World course in college. That's when I really started questioning everything. I quickly realized that all religions, most of them, excluding Buddhism because it's a little bit different, it's more of a way of life, all religions pretty much are some adapted versions of the same storyline. Different characters, different deities. Some religions have one deity, some have multiple. Essentially, they all have the same goal of eternal peace and prosperity. So once I realized that, wow, all of these religions are pretty much saying the same thing and have a lot of the same values, I was like, so who am I to say that mine is right and everyone else is wrong? Which is a common theme in America. Then I started to think about my upbringing. I always questioned what I was taught, but I was never given any answers. I always had very logical questions to what I was being taught in Sunday school, and I was always told to just have faith. Most of my childhood and teenage years, I genuinely felt like I was faking being a Christian. I did not get into it the way that other people did. And I truly was like, how are these people so good at acting? I think some of that has to do with me being neurodivergent. I could not act like something I wasn't. I could not pretend to believe in something that I didn't. The reason it took me so long to come out as atheist or agnostic is because I was terrified and taught from a very young age that anyone who was not a Christian was deeply shameful, lost, dangerous. Basically, they are the devil in human form. So I genuinely was scared. I was scared to be shunned by my family. I was scared to be shunned from society, lose friends, lose family. And sure enough, my family questioned me. They told me that it was just a phase. They told me that I was just lost. They told me that maybe I just need to find another church. I ignored all of those comments and just continued about my journey. At first, I just defined myself as someone who believed in God, but then didn't go to church anymore and just said, oh, I just have a personal relationship with God. And then I went to saying, okay, I just am a spiritual person. But I really couldn't define that, and I didn't really know what that meant to me. Then I defined myself as a humanist, which is basically just the belief in human beings and the goodness of human beings and the impact that we can have here on earth rather than worrying about an afterlife or supernatural powers, which I would say I still fall into that category today. I believe in what I see, what I feel with my senses here on earth. I don't rely on anything that cannot be proven. Another thing that happened when I realized that I couldn't say that my religion as a Christian was right and everyone else was wrong was because I realized, like, I just happened to be born in America where Christianity is widely practiced. If I was in another country across the world, if I was born in India, what are the chances of me being a practicing Christian? Probably little to none, right? Does that mean that those children and those adults are wrong? No. You are raised in the culture that you were born into. You're indoctrinated into that culture, into that religion, because that's what you're born into, which is just pure dumb luck. It's not because someone did something right and someone did something wrong. You're telling me that a child halfway across the world who doesn't know English, who's never heard of Christianity, that they're gonna burn in hell because they never repented when they've never heard of it before? Please. I started questioning mission trips. I started seeing the parallels between these missionary trips and colonization. You want to give these kids water and food, but only if they agree to hear about your gospel and convert to Christianity? No, that's fucked up. Long story short, once I started deconstructing, the guilt started chipping away. I always felt guilty. I always felt shame growing up, because every Sunday I was taught to feel guilt and shame for who I was as a person, for my thoughts, for my feelings, for my actions, my normal human actions, my normal human thoughts and feelings. I felt immense guilt and shame about who I was, which is probably why it took me so long to come out as bisexual. Once I deconstructed and let go of that shame, which is still, I do still have a little bit of internalized shame, but for the most part, I am so much happier. I can live my life on my own terms, and I don't feel the need to indoctrinate my son into a religion that has been known to harm millions and millions of people for several centuries without even giving him consent in the matter.
A little bit before my 15th birthday, I left Christianity. I didn't tell anybody, kept going to church for the next 2 years, but I did not believe in God. All because of this one logical conundrum, and it's not the Epicurean trilemma. I came across a lot of things in my search to kind of feel better about my belief in God, to prove God in a sense. All I came across was things that convinced me otherwise. It wasn't the Epicurean trilemma or one of the well-known arguments against God that did it for me. It was the fact that in religions like Christianity and Islam, these Abrahamic religions, they're heavily faith-based. You're not supposed to test God. You're discouraged from testing God. It's inherently valuable because of the blind faith, the blind obedience, and the blind trust in something that you cannot prove or disprove. So with that being said, which is more valuable? Choosing God when you don't have to choose God, or choosing God when the alternative is hell or a bad afterlife? The ultimate test of faith is not whether you choose God when the alternative is literally an eternity of suffering. Would it not be more valuable to choose God when you didn't have to suffer if you didn't? You just chose God for the sake of God. If you're choosing God because the alternative is a worse afterlife, are you choosing God? If God is so inherently valuable, you should want to choose him, even when you don't, quote unquote, have to, when you're not being pushed to by consequence. That is faith. That is obedience. That's blind trust. I was never stuck on, well, why does God give kids cancer? Like, we have a million arguments to address that in the church. Like, well, there's free will. Like, he doesn't control what happens on earth. He just put us here. We just create horrors. That was just God's plan. None of that mattered to me. It was really just the basis of, if all of this is about faith, what is the value in choosing God when the alternative is eternal suffering? It doesn't make sense logically. It is not something that would be designed by an omnipotent greater being. This is giving, I was made by humans. If you have to use fear to get people to choose the greater, higher path, is it really the greater, higher path?